a woman enters Japan's most haunted place to find her missing twin sister, without realizing she is being hunted by restless spirits. The film opens with a woman desperately running through the darkness of a forest, crying out for help. The scene then cuts to a woman named Sara, who suddenly wakes up from a terrifying nightmare and immediately begins packing her belongings. It turns out that the woman seen running through the forest was Sara's twin sister, Jess. The night before, Sara received a phone call from the Japanese police informing her that Jess had been missing for several days. According to eyewitnesses, the last place Jess was seen was entering Aokigahara Forest.
They filed a missing persons report. Your sister was last seen in Aokigahara Forest.
For those who don't know, Aokigahara is a forest located at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan, infamous for the large number of people who have chosen to end their own lives there. Because of its dark reputation, the forest has long been surrounded by eerie legends, with many believing it is haunted by restless spirits. After hearing the news, Sara couldn't understand why the police hadn't immediately launched a search, even though they had already received a missing person report from the school where Jess worked. The police explained that because Jess had entered Aokigahara Forest alone, they believed she had no intention of being found. They also told Sara that if someone isn't found within 48 hours of entering the forest, they usually assume that the person has taken their own life. However, as Jess's twin sister, Sara has a strong feeling that Jess is still alive and in danger. After ending the call, Sara immediately tells her husband, Rob, that she's flying to Japan to search for Jess. She is convinced that her twin sister is still alive and desperately needs her help. Although Rob initially tries to stop her, he eventually agrees to let Sara go alone since he still has work commitments to take care of, promising that he'll join her in Japan as soon as he can.
It's Jess. Leave a message.
Upon arriving in Japan, Sara decides to begin her search the following day. That night, while staying in her hotel room, she searches for information about Aokigahara Forest. However, instead of finding helpful information, she comes across countless photos of people who had taken their own lives, along with their personal belongings scattered throughout the forest. Seeing all of this, Sara finds it even harder to believe that Jess would willingly enter such a terrifying place. She can't stop wondering what could have possibly driven her twin sister to venture into a place like that. Later that night, as Sara falls into a deep sleep, she is haunted by another terrifying nightmare. The following day, Sara visits the school where Jess works as a teacher. As soon as she walks into Jess's classroom, the students scream in terror at the sight of her. One of the girls explains that she mistook Sara for Jess. Since they knew Jess had entered Aokigahara Forest alone and was reported missing, they believed she had returned as a yurei, a restless spirit said to wander among the living.
She thought you were Miss Jess. She thought you were a yurei. She knows your sister went into Aokigahara.
The school principal then tells Sara that, according to ancient legend, Aokigahara was once believed to be a place where ubaste was practiced, a tradition in which elderly or seriously ill family members were abandoned in the forest to die. Over time, Aokigahara became infamous for the large number of people who chose to end their own lives there, giving rise to the belief that the spirits of the dead still wander the forest, unable to find peace. Before leaving the school, Sara asks for permission to enter the room where Jess had been staying in hopes of finding clues about her whereabouts. While looking through the room, she comes across childhood photos of herself and Jess, bringing back memories of the time before her twin sister moved to Japan.
Jess, do you have the packing tape? We needed to start our lives. Tokyo isn't exactly the next town over. I'm about to start mine all over again. I'm sure it'll be great, Jess. I'm proud of you.
Sara also discovers anti-anxiety medication along with several brochures and maps of Aokigahara Forest. From what she finds, she realizes that Jess had been struggling with anxiety and suspects that it was what drove her to enter the forest. Without wasting another moment, Sara boards a train and heads straight for Aokigahara Forest. Upon arriving at the station, Sara heads straight to the visitor center to ask if anyone has seen Jess. A staff member named Mari tells her that they did find Jess, prompting Sara to follow her down to a room in the basement.
Have you seen her?
Yes, we find. I take you. She here.
At first, Sara believes Jess has been found alive. However, Mari instead leads her into the morgue. She explains that every body recovered from Aokigahara Forest is kept there so that family members searching for missing loved ones can come and identify them. Fortunately, Jess is not among the bodies. Even so, Sara remains determined to enter Aokigahara Forest and asks Mari to help her find a guide, convinced that Jess is still alive. Mari refuses, explaining that no one is willing to guide people into the forest anymore. According to her, even those who leave markers along their path often end up getting lost, and many are eventually found dead. Unable to get any help, Sara tries searching for a map of Aokigahara on her phone, but there is no signal in the area. A short while later, she meets a woman named Sakura and once again asks for someone to take her into the forest. Sakura immediately refuses, saying she's afraid of encountering yurei. She explains that yurei are believed to be restless spirits that prey on a person's grief. According to the legend, if someone becomes lost in the forest while carrying emotional pain, the yurei will deceive them, lead them astray, and eventually drive them to end their own life.
The forest has yure.
If you get lost and you have sadness in your heart,
And yure can find you. They will use it against you, make you want to die, and make you see things.
If the Yurei are looking for me, I'll be at my hotel.
Despite being warned over and over again, Sara refuses to believe the stories and remains determined to enter Aokigahara Forest. As night falls, Sara decides to stay at a nearby inn for the night. Not long after, she is approached by a man named Aiden, who introduces himself as a journalist.
You look familiar. Have we met? I'm Aiden, by the way.
Sarah.
During their conversation, Sara explains that she came to Japan to search for her twin sister, who disappeared in Aokigahara Forest. She even admits that she's prepared to enter the forest alone if that's what it takes to find Jess. However, Aiden immediately warns her that the forest is extremely easy to get lost in. Coincidentally, he is planning to visit Aokigahara the next day to gather material for an article. He explains that he'll be accompanied by a Japanese friend who knows the forest's trails very well, then offers to let Sara join them. However, Aiden has one condition. In return, he wants to use Sara's search for Jess as the subject of the article he's working on.
Will I be a celebrity in Australia? Right.
You have to say yes out loud.
Yes, out loud.
Sara agrees to the arrangement, and they decide to head to Aokigahara Forest together the following morning. Later that night, they continue talking, and Sara opens up about her childhood with Jess. She reveals that after their parents passed away, she and Jess were raised by their grandmother. The following morning, Aiden introduces Sara to his friend, Michi, a local guide who will accompany them into Aokigahara Forest. Before they set off, Michi warns Sara that there's a good chance Jess is already dead. However, Sara remains convinced that she's still alive.
You should not go.
Why?
Because you're sad.
Michi is hesitant to take Sara into the forest because he senses the deep grief she's carrying. He explains that if she enters Aokigahara in that emotional state, the yurei will prey on her sorrow and use it to deceive her. But Sara ignores his warning and insists on entering the forest, no matter the risk. Upon arriving at Aokigahara Forest, the three of them begin following the trail deeper into the restricted area.
Jukai means sea of trees.
Along the way, Aiden points out that a compass won't work properly there because the forest sits on large deposits of iron, which interfere with its magnetic needle. Michi then warns both Sara and Aiden that if they see anything strange or terrifying in the forest, they shouldn't immediately believe it's real, as it's most likely an illusion meant to deceive their minds. Not long afterward, they come across a man sitting alone outside his tent. Michi explains that the man is probably still struggling with the decision to end his own life, so he walks over to check on him. While Michi is talking to the man, Aiden asks Sara what she'll do if they still can't find Jess by the end of the day. Without hesitation, Sara replies that she'll keep coming back to the forest until she finds her twin sister. She also reveals that Jess had attempted to end her own life twice before, but each time Sara managed to stop her. That's why she believes she can save Jess once again.
She was living in Florida a few years ago and they found her unconscious. That was the second time.
After confirming that the man is safe, they continue their journey. As they make their way through the forest, Sara notices numerous ropes and ribbons tied around the trees. Michi explains that they're used as trail markers, allowing people to find their way back out of the forest. However, some leave them behind in the hope that one day someone will follow the trail and recover their bodies. A short while later, they decide to follow one of the ropes that appears to have been placed there recently. To their horror, Sara suddenly discovers a body hanging from a tree.
I must cut him down.
He also reminds her that people burdened with deep grief, like Sara, are far more vulnerable to being deceived by the yurei. Despite all the warnings, Sara refuses to change her mind and insists on staying until she finds Jess. Not wanting to leave her alone, Aiden decides to stay by her side while Michi heads back out of the forest before nightfall. Before leaving, Michi tells Sara and Aiden to remain at the tent, promising that he'll return to Aokigahara the following day so they can continue the search together. That night, Sara and Aiden sit around the campfire, talking about their pasts.
Jess must be lost.
She's close. I closed my eyes, but she looked. My parents' bodies. She carried that all by herself.
As she begins to feel sleepy, Sara heads into the tent to rest while Aiden stays outside to keep watch. But in the middle of the night, Sara is once again haunted by a terrifying nightmare.
Aiden, say something. Aiden.
Not long after, she suddenly wakes up and steps outside the tent, only to find Aiden still asleep by the campfire. Moments later, she hears a voice coming from deeper within the forest and notices a mysterious figure standing among the dark trees. Without thinking twice, Sara immediately runs after the figure. It turns out to be a young woman named Hoshiko. Hoshiko tells Sara that Jess needs her help and warns her not to trust Aiden.
She said, need your help. Miss Jess know him. No, trust him.
When Sara asks why, Hoshiko simply replies that Jess had met him before. Before she can explain any further, Aiden's voice suddenly echoes through the forest, calling Sara's name. The moment Hoshiko hears him, she turns and runs deeper into the woods. Sara chases after her but accidentally falls and injures herself. A short while later, Aiden finds Sara and quickly helps her back to the tent. The following morning, Sara and Aiden decide to continue their search without waiting for Mishi to return. On their way, Aiden chooses to follow the river, believing it will eventually lead them out of the forest. However, along the way, Sara is startled by the sight of a dead body drifting downstream. As they continue walking, Sara suddenly realizes that Aiden is heading in the opposite direction from the path they had been following earlier. Aiden explains that they're following the river downstream, so they're still heading the right way. But when Sara looks back at the river, she notices that the current is now flowing in the opposite direction from before.
We're not climbing the mountain, water flows down.
The unsettling change leaves her confused and wondering whether they're still on the same path at all. While making their way through the forest, Aiden's phone suddenly rings and accidentally starts playing a recording of the conversation they had the night before. Sara is shocked to realize that Aiden had secretly recorded their entire conversation without asking for her permission. Aiden quickly explains that he only recorded it to use as notes for the article he's writing. However, Sara is still upset that he recorded such a personal conversation without telling her, causing her to lose trust in him. Hoshiko's warning from the previous night suddenly echoes in her mind. Sara begins to suspect that Aiden is hiding something and may somehow be connected to Jess's disappearance. Overcome with emotion, she grabs Aiden's phone and deletes every recording. As she scrolls through it, she discovers a photo of Jess, making her even more suspicious. Convinced that Aiden had approached her on purpose and had already met Jess before, Sara accuses him of lying. Aiden repeatedly denies every accusation, insisting that he has never met Jess. No longer willing to believe him, Sara throws his phone aside and runs off alone into the forest.
Give me the damn phone!
No.
Give me the...
After separating from Aiden, Sara continues deeper into the forest by herself, tying ropes around the trees as trail markers so she can retrace her steps if necessary. As she walks, she suddenly hears a whisper telling her to turn around. She tries to ignore it and keeps moving forward, but moments later, something horrifying happens behind her.
Turn around, Sara. Turn around, Sara. Turn around, Sara.
You're not real!
Turn around, Sara.
When she turns it on, she finds a series of photos that suddenly bring back memories from her past. A short while later, Aiden hears Sara's screams and manages to find her, helping her climb out of the pit. He explains that he found a forest ranger's radio and was able to call for help since the ranger station isn't far from their location. Even after everything that has happened, however, Sara still doesn't fully trust him. Wanting to prove that he genuinely wants to help her find Jess and has no intention of hurting her, Aiden hands Sara a knife so she can feel safer around him. A short while later, Sara walks to the riverbank to clean the wound on her hand. As she unwraps the bandage, she's horrified to see maggots crawling out of the wound and slowly burrowing into her wrist. Believing the horrifying sight is real, she slowly raises the knife, preparing to cut open her wrist to remove the maggots. Fortunately, just before she can hurt herself, Aiden calls out her name, snapping her out of the hallucination. Then, Aiden takes Sara to a forest ranger station he had discovered earlier.
There's no radio. At least we got a place to sleep.
Once they arrive, Aiden begins repairing the radio so they can call for help. However, Sara's suspicion quickly returns when Aiden suddenly asks to borrow the knife he had previously given her. While Aiden is busy fixing the radio, Sara explores the building and eventually comes across a locked door. Convinced that it leads to a basement, she becomes certain Jess is trapped inside after hearing her voice calling from the other side. Moments later, a small note is slipped underneath the door. The person Sara believes to be Jess asks whether Aiden is nearby. After Sara confirms that he is, another note warns her that Aiden is going to kill both of them and urges her to take the key to the room. Without a second thought, Sara believes every word. She grabs a knife from the kitchen and confronts Aiden, demanding that he hand over the key.
Sara?
I'll kill you if you don't let my sister out of that basement.
Just let me get the key.
Where is it?
Aiden calmly explains that the key is inside his shoe and says he'll get it for her. However, as he reaches for the knife in Sara's hand, the two struggle over it, and Aiden is accidentally stabbed, dying instantly.
She's not here.
A few moments later, the door that had been locked suddenly swings open on its own. Sara immediately steps inside and is horrified to find the bodies of her parents. It is finally revealed that they didn't die in a car accident as she had always believed. In reality, their father murdered their mother before taking his own life with a gun. Jess witnessed the entire tragedy after going downstairs first, while their grandmother covered Sara's eyes before she could see what had happened. As a result, only Jess knew the horrifying truth about their parents' deaths. The trauma from that horrific night left Jess struggling with severe anxiety, while Sara unknowingly buried the memory deep within her subconscious. Suddenly, their father's corpse comes back to life and attacks Sara, grabbing hold of her arm. Believing she has no other choice, Sara severs her father's hand before escaping the building. Outside, she finds herself surrounded by countless yurei. As she desperately runs, she hears Jess calling her name and immediately races toward the voice. However, Hoshiko suddenly appears and stops her, revealing the horrifying truth. While Sara believed she had been cutting off her father's hand, she had actually been slashing her own wrist, trapped inside a hallucination created by the yurei. Hoshiko explains that Sara had already died inside the old house after bleeding to death. Moments later, the restless spirits that haunt Aokigahara Forest drag Sara away until her body is swallowed by the earth. In the end, Sara becomes the next victim of the yurei after ignoring every warning about entering Aokigahara Forest while carrying overwhelming grief. From the moment she entered the forest, Sara repeatedly witnessed strange and terrifying events. However, because she refused to believe in the existence of the yurei, she dismissed every warning sign until she eventually became trapped in a series of hallucinations that ultimately led to her death. Meanwhile, Aiden, who had genuinely intended to help Sara from the very beginning, tragically became another victim of the hallucinations that had completely taken hold of her mind. It's also strongly implied that Hoshiko was one of the yurei all along, deliberately manipulating Sara, exploiting her grief, and driving a wedge between her and Aiden, ultimately leading them both to their deaths. Meanwhile, Rob, Michi, and the forest rangers continue searching for Sara and Aiden when they're suddenly startled by a woman running out of Aokigahara Forest in a state of panic. To everyone's surprise, the woman turns out to be Jess. Rob immediately rushes over and asks if she had seen Sara anywhere inside the forest. However, Jess looks confused and explains that during the 4 days she was trapped in Aokigahara, she never encountered anyone. The forest rangers then escort Jess to a vehicle for evacuation, but she refuses to leave after learning that Sara had traveled all the way to Japan to search for her and had now gone missing instead. As Jess stares back into Aokigahara Forest, she suddenly falls silent, her expression turning completely blank. It's likely that at that very moment, she realizes the bond she shared with her twin sister has been severed following Sara's death. Although Jess had spent more time inside the forest, she managed to stay calm and resisted the yurei's influence. Sara, on the other hand, entered the forest carrying overwhelming grief and anxiety, making her far more vulnerable to the hallucinations created by the yurei. In the end, Rob and Jess leave the area. Before departing, Michi takes one last look toward Aokigahara Forest and catches a glimpse of Sara, who has now become one of the yurei, wandering through the woods. By the time the search is officially called off, neither Sara's nor Aiden's body is ever recovered, and with that, the story comes to an end.